Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Danielle Durham, and along with my colleague Chris Bateman, we work as academic developers at the Adam Smith Business School. We are excited to be talking to you today about our project Students as Co-Creators in Assessment, which has been a multidisciplinary project involving both academic colleagues and student interns.
The project was funded by the Learning and Teaching Development Fund, and our key aims were to partner with academic colleagues to pilot 3 models of co-creation in assessment. Following an evaluation of the pilot phase, we recruited a team of student interns. We then partnered with our interns to design a toolkit for staff who were looking to do some co-creation with their students. We'll explain more about the toolkit later in the presentation.
So why did we decide to focus on this area? Well, assessment and feedback remains an area of improvement across many universities, and there is a lot of work going on in this area, including the introduction of the Learning Through Assessment framework in 2023. We also know that staff and student co-creation and assessment has been shown to have many potential benefits, everything from better engagement, improved assessment literacy and better inclusion. But it can still be seen as a somewhat risky practice due to the important role that assessment plays in our degree programmes, and colleagues can be reluctant to work with students in this area. So the question that we asked ourselves was, how do we support colleagues try this approach? Our project aim was to increase awareness of and provide practical guidance on how staff and student co-creation can be used and implemented to develop student-centred, authentic and inclusive assessments that ultimately improve the student's assessment experience. We wanted to achieve this in 2 ways. First of all, by piloting different models of staff and student co-creation in assessment to gain practical insight into how to do this. And secondly, to co-design a range of practical resources to support colleagues co-create assessments. We designed the pilot models using the ladder of participation in curriculum design, which visualises student participation on a scale from no interaction at all right through to students being in full control. Based on discussions with the course coordinators, we ended up with pilot models at various points along the ladder, and these models were designed to take a whole class approach. So in total, we ended up with 318 students and 3 academic colleagues involved in the pilot. The first activity we tried was optionality in assessment, where the students were given 2 choices on their assessment format. Now this was at the lower end of the ladder, and we felt it fit in best with the description of students being given a limited choice from prescribed choices, and it also aligned with the Learning Through Assessment framework pillar on inclusivity. The next course trialled the co-creation of a formative quiz bank, which aligned with the ladder rung on students having control of a prescribed area and the Learning Through Assessment framework pillars, inclusive and iterative. And finally, our last course co-created a rubric together. So this was definitely near the top of the ladder, as the students and the course coordinator were very much working in partnership to do this. And this model aligned with 3 of the Learning Through Assessment framework pillars. This project was undertaken using an action research approach, and following their respective co-creation experiences, students were invited to complete a survey that was a mix of quantitative and qualitative questions. The course coordinators were also interviewed following the design and delivery of the co-creative activity, and their responses analysed using a thematic analysis approach.
Following the pilot phase of the project, we surveyed the students who participated to see what they thought of co-creation for assessment. We were pleased to discover that student perceptions of the project were generally positive. 84% of students felt that it improved their understanding of assessment requirements and how to do it well. 83% reported that they felt involved in the assessment process, and 83% again stated that the assessment was inclusive to their needs. This was really pleasing, as these results were consistent with the literature, confirming to us that in these aspects, students felt like they had a positive experience with co-creation in their assessment. Our student feedback in the project was also useful in unearthing some of the perceived challenges that our students faced around co-creation. The first challenge we observed for students was around the time spent on the task versus its perceived benefits. As co-creation was a relatively new concept for many of our students, Our responses suggested that for some, they struggled to see its relative value given the time that they committed to it. The second challenge was in applying the learning beyond the assignment. From our experiences, we would suggest that it's important to help students to appreciate the inherent values that can be drawn from a partnership approach, such as, for example, assessment literacy and understanding how to do well in an assessment. We found a noticeable minority struggled with this. For example, roughly 20% disagreed or strongly disagreed that they felt that this approach would help them with assessment outside of their course. The final challenge students reported was their understanding the benefits that this approach would bring to them. While the majority did appreciate these, 18% disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, "Following this experience, I understand the purpose and benefits of staff-student co-creation." This taught us that it's important to be able to articulate to your students in a meaningful way the benefits of this approach and what the students will get out of it as well. That was a little bit about what our students told us, but what about our colleagues? Following the pilot, we conducted interviews with our lecture colleagues to find out what they felt was needed to support an academic who was looking to introduce a co-creation approach to their assessments. They told us that they felt they needed the following: support in identifying how and where co-creation could enhance assessment, input into activity design and evaluation, student-facing resources, ideas and inspiration, and opportunities for peer support and to share best practice. So what did we do with this feedback? Following the evaluation, we worked together with our team of student interns and our academic colleagues to design a toolkit for staff looking to introduce co-creation for assessment in their teaching. As a project team, we collectively decided that such a toolkit would have to include the following features: the fundamentals of students as co-creators, inspiration and ideas, and practical resources and templates, as well as a place to contact the team for further support. This allowed us to develop a space where practical resources, as well as our experiences, could be shared with our colleagues. We started by sharing the toolkit within our school and are now pleased to make it available to all our colleagues at the university. Being such a student-centred project, we feel that the final word today shouldn't go to us, but to our student intern Aanya, who helped design the toolkit, as well as contributing her perspectives as a student on the project. Over to you, Aanya.
I think the innovation and the relevance of this project is what inspired me to get involved in the first place. It was a project that directly linked the students to the staff members, and I think that is extremely key to make learnings and the whole academic environment just more efficient and more productive. I think it is very important to establish a clear line of communication and make students feel comfortable to approach about how to bring this approach into practice in real life. So I think we focused on developing sort of case studies, examples of how students as co-creators is practiced in real life. Since it's such a new and upcoming topic, I think it's very important to understand how can you actually start using this in real life. So I would describe SSCC as collaborative, innovative, and inclusive. Thank you.
So that takes us to the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for listening.